Hi, submarine friends. Well, yesterday was pretty productive. I managed to finish installing the hydraulics for the electric hydraulic unit that drives the submarine while I'm submerged. Now I put in a 2-spool valve, which is fantastic, and that's all mounted now. It's all done, ready to go. Um, so it's, like I said, it's a 2-spool valve. So what I'm going to do is the second spool is going to operate the dive planes. So the dive planes will be up front, halfway up the hull, and they'll be controlled with a hydraulic cylinder on the outside of the submarine. And that cylinder will be tucked underneath the ballast tank so you don't see it and it doesn't create a bunch of drag. And then just a linkage that'll go to the two dive planes. So I need those to make the submarine submerge. So I release the air from the forward and aft ballast tanks completely. Then I start to fill the variable ballast tank, which is here, and that can take up to 350 pounds of water. And so as soon as the hatch window is just underwater, you stop filling it, close up all the valves, and then you just travel forward with the dive planes pointed down, and the submarine just goes to the bottom. So it's actually quite effective, but you need good sized dive planes, particularly if the submarine is slow. So the slower the submarine, the bigger the dive planes. But what's really cool about the dive planes is you can actually travel. I mean, it's super inefficient, but you can actually glide on the dive planes. So you let more water into the variable ballast tank and making the submarine a bit heavier. And as you descend, it's like gliding in a plane. And those dive planes make you go forward. I've never tried this, but theoretically it works. And I think there's some autonomous submersibles roaming around the world doing that. They just glide. So that would be kind of fun to play around with. Talk about a weird way to travel to get back to shore if you had a breakdown. And it would be super efficient energy-wise because you just need a tiny bit of air to make the submarine go back into surfacing mode. So, I mean, one tank of air would last many, many cycles. So that'd be kind of a fun thing to play around with. Anyways, so today I want to get all these cables, these push-pull cables, I want to get them mounted because right now they're in the way and they're going to poke me in the eye and they need to be mounted anyway. So what I'll do is I'll put the sections of the bulkhead wall in the sound deadening wall, and I'll put those pieces in because those cables have to go through, plus the air lines have to go through. So it's a lot of fiddly stuff I have to do, but that's okay. I can handle a fiddly diddly day today. So that's what I'm going to work on. Then I got to start thinking about getting the forward section of the hull in here. Right now it's outside in the snow. It shouldn't be frozen to the ground because in the fall I put it on some pieces of wood because around here things freeze to the ground and then you can't move them anymore. So I actually know of a crane. They actually broke the boom off lifting something that was frozen to the ground. Can you imagine? Obviously there was a problem with the crane because it should have just stalled. But anyways, I got to get that in here soon. And I got to get the window frame welded into that section of hull. And I'm quite concerned about that window frame deforming from welding. Now it's 3-inch thick piece of steel, so it's an honest piece of steel. But I'm concerned about it warping. I'm going to have to really do some research on the best weld procedure to prevent warping. But if it does warp, I have two choices. One, I can build another flange facing machine, which is what I did originally, and remachine it in place. That section of hull is just a bit too big to fit into my big lathe. The diameter is 48 inches. That'll fit in my big lathe, but it's too tall. So the other option is I have a big giant steel ring here that I made for my deep diving submarine, and I screwed up the measurements. It was 1/4 inch too small after I machined it, and I didn't want to fill that much extra to weld it into place, so I made a new one. So that ring is here. So it's 2 inches thick. It's about that big around. It was the hatch, what the hatch sat on. And I could just weld that in And because it's flat, it's not a conical window, it's easy to flatten out to accept the window if it warps. And then I would just buy a 2-inch thick flat acrylic window to bolt onto, because this thing's not going deep. And then I would have a bigger window as well. So that's something to think about. And I need to get on that so I have time to order a window if I need to. And because I'd like to get this thing in a test pool by May. So anyways, that's what's happening today. I'm going to get these cables mounted. And yeah, it'll be a nice fiddly day. Ciao.